We will repeal the federal plastics ban, including the ban on plastic straws, checkout bags, food containers, and cutlery, because consumers and businesses should be free to choose what works best for them.
Pierre Poilievre's mind is focused elsewhere. His priority for Canadians is to bring back plastic straws. Plastic straws. Thank God. That'll show Trump. That'll show the Americans. We got our straws, yeah. And at least that's his priority when he's not proposing to burn everything down, everything that matters to Canadian under the pretense of getting our house in order.
It is a 21 kilometers race, and it is a huge challenge for robots to run for this long. Biggest challenge for us is the reliability and endurance of our robot. The banner, it says 必胜 on the banner. It is like we must win. I put this banner on after our robot crossed the finish line. We didn't think our robot would be able to accomplish this race. The robot participating in this race is sold at $6,000 US, and it's really cheap in the robot industry. It's not profitable, but we are raising money.
The C-929, a long-range, wide-body aircraft entirely developed by China, has just reached an incredible milestone, ushering in a new era in the global aviation industry. No longer a project on paper, the C-929 is a monumental leap forward, a powerful statement that China is ready to reshape the global landscape, directly competing with giants like Boeing and Airbus.
This morning, an unusual animal encounter causing a scare in the air.
Rabbit through the number 2, that'll do it, all right.
A rabbit somehow making it into the right engine of United Airlines Flight 2325 from Denver to Edmonton Sunday, right as the Boeing 737 with 159 people on board was taking off.
There was a loud bang and a significant vibration in the plane. We proceeded to still climb.
Harrowing video from inside the cabin showing large flames shooting from that engine.
Every few moments there was a backfire coming from the engine, a giant fireball behind it. Everybody in the plane then started to panic.
The soaring blaze visible from the ground.
My stomach dropped and I just thought, I'm gonna see a plane go down.
Take with you all your belongings.
The pilots quickly responding to malfunctions in the cockpit. At one point thinking the fire was impacting the landing gear.
The landing gear, we have indication is now locked up.
The plane turning around after about 75 minutes in the air. And United tells us that the flight returned safely to Denver. Now, wildlife strikes in general, they're actually very common. The FAA says there were more than 20,000 of them last year in America. But when you're talking specifically about rabbits, there were only 4. So this was extremely rare, Robin.
A 4-hour journey turning into an all-night-long drama.
It was the longest day ever.
Lorraine Fushi, just one of nearly 300 Delta passengers forced to stay aboard 2 grounded planes for more than 6 hours overnight in Montgomery, Alabama. What was it like?
Well, we had pretzels over and over again. After a while, I did take a nap, It wasn't comfortable.
The airline says severe thunderstorms forced 2 international flights, one from Mexico City, the other from Cabo San Lucas, both heading to Atlanta's International Airport, to divert to Montgomery's much smaller regional airport. Delta says that airport didn't have customs staff to process international passengers, so everyone had to stay put until the airport worked out a plan with federal officials.
It was so frustrating, so uncomfortable, and because we were an international flight, they could not open, I believe, their cart for additional beverages and snacks or offer meals.
Early this morning, arrangements made to deplane under law enforcement supervision, passengers say. They also tell us they had to walk from the aircraft to the terminal because the airport's gates couldn't accommodate large jetliners. One passenger, Lauren Forbes, says once they got inside, they were put into a small zone within the terminal, only allowed to use monitored restrooms. The Montgomery Regional Airport didn't immediately respond to NBC News' request for comment. Delta apologizing in a statement saying in part, "We fell short," and that they are reaching out to each customer with a full refund.
I'm feeling like I'm ready to maybe sleep for 12 hours straight.
Many passengers we spoke with just starting to get home tonight.
It's said there are no atheists in foxholes. There should be no libertarians in crises.
There's an item in the New York Post that we all have in front of us. It's an exclusive story, and it talks about how with these 104% tariffs that went into effect, we think that China is going to have to pay for it, but it tells a story of a special needs toy importer. And when the tariffs went into effect at midnight, his tariff, he's been paying a tariff because he gets stuff from China, $26,000 a year. His tariff bill went from $26,000 at midnight to $346,000. And that's money he's going to have to come out of his pocket. It sounds like he's going to have to go ahead and close down part of his business. He tried to make the toys in the United States, but the tariff on that, his most popular item, went from $0 to $17 at midnight. And what he told the New York Post is people don't understand the tariff situation. They think just foreign countries are paying for the tariffs.
So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care.
France Emmanuel Macron called the tariffs brutal and unfounded.
A town in France has replaced Coca-Cola with apple juice at municipal events.
A boycott of Coca-Cola.
We need to punish Mr. Trump a little bit.
They will content themselves with the Statue of Liberty on the Quai de Seine in Paris. These French people will not set foot in the United States as long as Donald Trump is in power.
I don't want to, although I love America and I've been before, but this time, that's a no.
I think Musk should be placed under a mandatory psychiatric hold. This guy has 13 to 15 children around the world. He's a junkie, a nutcase. Come on.
In a country known for its politeness, this morning, growing outrage.
Many of them now boycotting American goods and travel here.
This is my last bag of American product.
Social media erupting with calls to buy Canadian and boycott USA.
So you can buy America and you can buy Canadian.
Love that.
Right?
The flag for that. These are not actions one does to a friend.
Totally unnecessary and stupid.
The madness of a mentally ill man.
The biggest assault we have seen since the end of the Second World War.
The mess they use is dumb mess.
They've been calculated in a way that makes back of the envelope Crayola crayon scrawlings look like the work of Isaac Newton.
It is time for you to leave the United States. That's the first sentence Lisa Anderson saw in an email she got from the Department of Homeland Security Friday.
The language seems pretty threatening to whoever it might actually apply to.
She thought it was spam at first, but the email was very real after Anderson had it vetted. What created confusion is that Anderson, who's a physician and lives in Cromwell, was born in Pennsylvania and is a U.S. citizen.
I really have no idea how my email ended up on that list unless someone else was using that as a false email.
She now carries her passport on the advice of attorneys and is looking for representation from an actual immigration attorney worried about legal repercussions, something she never thought she would ever need.
I don't have anything to do with immigration, and I never thought that I would be needed the services of an immigration attorney either, and that's where I find myself.
This comes just days after 2 Boston immigration attorneys got the same email from DHS despite being U.S. citizens themselves. A senior DHS official telling our sister station, NBC Boston, that Customs and Border Protection has been sending these emails to people who do not have lawful status in the U.S., saying, quote, if a non-personal email, such as an American citizen contact, was provided by the alien, notices may have been sent to unintended recipients. CBP is monitoring communications and will address any issues on a case-by-case basis. Anderson is warning anyone who may have gotten the emails to take them seriously and get legal help.
It does make me concerned that there's a lot more people out there like me who probably also thought this was spam, who probably don't realize that they might have a problem.
Living with 6 other adults, Marko Jovanovic was in need of another fridge, but as he unboxed his new purchase from a Calgary Rona store last month, he was surprised.
Put it here, took the cardboard off, and that's when I noticed it wasn't the same color. It was used. My friend opened it. He's like, oh man, it's even dirty.
Somehow, an old fridge made by a different company had made its way into the box. Inside, it was supposed to be a new Samsung appliance. When he tried to return back to the store,
they had another fridge for me, and then the manager was like, I can't authorize this. I was like, what do you mean I can't authorize it? He said, it's not a Samsung fridge. I said, I know.
He says it began a month-long runaround trying to get a refund while also dealing without a fridge.
I had about a day of no fridge, so I had to put things in a cooler and kind of just have it, what could sit out, while I'm waiting for this other fridge.
Experts say these unexpected switches do happen.
Many times there's still a lot of manual labor involved in warehouses, so those mistakes can happen, that they put the wrong label on the box and then everyone goes by label.
Bifunk says that usually happens when companies offer refurbished products.
It goes from a larger warehouse, sometimes it can go to a smaller location before it's actually going to the customer or retail store.
However, there are ways to avoid it turning into a hassle.
You don't have to be aggressive, but you can be assertive in these situations. Say, you know, I want some details. I want to know what I'm buying. I want to know what the warranty is. I want to take a look at the thing.
Rona acknowledged the mix-up, saying these issues arise from time to time, and they were able to offer Jovanovic a refund and a gift card for his trouble.
They actually had a barbecue I wanted. They had all these items I actually wanted, but the issue is now because they wouldn't solve this fridge, I don't want to spend any of my money there.
A new report reveals that more than 80% of consumers are avoiding American products, buying Canadian whenever they can. That survey was done by KPMG, and Tim Webb is a partner of supply chain and procurement. Joined us to talk about this. Tim, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So we've heard this sort of, you know, from our friends and neighbors, oh, I'm going to buy Canadian, that kind of thing. But in your survey, there's like an 80% of the sentiment from consumers who are saying, no, we are buying Canadian. Were you surprised by that number?
Not necessarily surprised by the number. I think in the heat of where we are right now, this is how Canadians are responding. And I think that's going to stick for at least the next couple of weeks. We're going to see what happens on the 4th of March, next week. That might be pushed out into April, but I think we're going to see at least this for the next month or so. But it could taper off a little bit if we see tariffs start to become no longer such a big problem.
If they get pushed back or get pushed back again.
Or if it does get retracted.
Part of standing up is to have the plan to manage through the chaos to a better future for all Canadians. When you are in a crisis, you have to prepare for the worst. You can't hope for the best. When President Trump was openly musing, threatening about annexing Canada, about making our great nation the 51st state, Pierre Poilievre's first reaction was not to defend our sovereignty. No, he said, Canada is stupid. Over time, when the severity of President Trump's threats became obvious to virtually everyone, his message to the president has been that he should just knock it off. Just knock it off. As if it were so simple.
Recently, the entire country breathed a sigh of relief when the nation was pulled back from the brink of the federal election. But nobody breathed easier than Conservative Member of Parliament Pierre Poilievre, who will now qualify for a full pension the same month he turns 31. Pierre Poilievre, the workers of Canada salute you.
Congratulations, Pierre.
Yay, Pierre.
I don't have a pension.
Yes, very few Canadians qualify for a full pension at the age of 31. Well, in fact, there really is only one, and that man, Pierre Poilievre, which is why we wanted to throw a party for Pierre and get some fun stories from people who have worked with Pierre before he became a member of Parliament. Now, unfortunately, we cannot find any evidence that he actually held what most of us would call a job. So if you worked with Pierre at an actual job in any capacity, say as a co-worker, please contact us with a witty story so we can honor a great Canadian. Conservative MP Pierre Poilievre, you loved him when he said natives in this country need to learn the value of hard work.
He said what?
And you laughed when he said we can't afford to amend EI to cover more workers.
That little
Whoop. And you will cheer when he gets his pension.
Am I paying for that?
Yes, you were. Pierre Poilievre, one hell of a guy. One heck of a pension.
This has been a Sleepy Terrier production 2025. You lot still here? Remember, elbows up, fight tyranny.